Alright guys, welcome back to another video with Atomic Token Games. I'm Jake Steppen.
And I'm Wade Wagner.
And today we're doing a review of Spirit Island. Make sure, before we get into the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you can get more board game content every week. And just a reminder, guys, as we get into a review video, we like to be pretty thorough with our reviews. So we have 7 different categories that we'll go through. Then we'll rank everything on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low and high, and 5 being a high rating. And then at the end of the video, we'll give our overall score on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so a quick overview of the game. Spirit Island is a cooperative strategy game that you can play with 1 to 4 people, where you take the role of a spirit who protects an island from invaders coming to attack its home. So the game starts out, you start out as a weak spirit, and you're able to increase your strength throughout the game through growth actions and different abilities. Meanwhile, as you're increasing your strength, the invaders are ramping up. Each turn, the invaders will explore, build, and ravage on your island. And so, to protect it, you have a hand of cards that you build and improve throughout the game. So you're able to use these cards to move, destroy, and scare the invaders off of your island. One of the coolest parts of the game is the fact that there's a campaign-like aspect to it, where you're able to fight different adversaries that have passive abilities that scale up. So you can fight, for instance, one of them is England, and each time you fight against England, they gain a new ability, and they get harder and harder and harder. And so you have to really plan with your teammates to work on having the best abilities, the best powers possible, and really coordinate to stop the invaders from taking over your island and getting rid of them.
So our first review category is table space and setup. So how long does the game take to set up? Is it worth it for the gameplay that you're getting out of it? 1 on setup means super easy to set up. It's Uno. You're going to deal a hand of cards and you're done. 5 on setup is a board game that covers your entire table and it's just a pain in the butt to set up. So we gave this a 4 for table space and setup. It's got a pretty good footprint on the table. There's a lot of pieces to kind of manage and stuff like that. And I think the biggest part is the pieces setting up on the board.
This would be set up for a 1-player game without any of the extra tokens, the extra coins and all that sort of thing. So this is a very cut down 1-player setup.
Yeah, there's one of these complicated islands per player, and then each player has one of these player mats, a hand of cards. This is in kind of the center of everybody. So it's got a pretty hefty setup, but it's totally worth it.
All right, so our second category is replayability. Now, Spirit Island is one of the most replayable games I've ever played. Both of us give this a 5. This is a super replayable game. Part of that comes from the fact that there's not a real way to just win. You can try tons of different strategies. Each spirit has a totally different play style. Once you start getting into more of the adversaries, like England or Sweden, and you start playing some of their higher levels, their higher difficulty levels where they have more abilities, some spirits are totally worthless. Some spirits can do better, and so there's a whole lot of work that goes into that. In addition, as you're playing and you're upgrading your hand to play cards, in order to gain cards, every time you gain cards, you draw 4 of these power cards and you choose 1 to keep. So there's a whole deck of cards. Every time you play, you're going to be drawing different cards. You're going to be getting different abilities.
So even if you play the same spirit, you're customizing their powers.
That's right. Yep. So even if I'm playing the river spirit, I can get totally different ability cards and different things. And so the possibilities are really endless on the replayability. And like we mentioned earlier, we've lost. And it is a hard game. There's a lot of like, man, I just want to get better. I want to do better. And so for us, the replayability is super high on this game. We give it a full 5 out of 5.
All right, guys, so our next review category number 3, is our complexity rating. So this is number 1. We're going to use Uno as an example a lot. Number 1 is Uno, right? Super simple, not hard to understand, not a big learning curve. Number 5 is the most complicated game you can think of. This one, I gave a 4, and Jake gave it a 4.5 complexity. The initial learning curve is really steep. And there's a lot going on for the person who's teaching the game. You have to manage placing the pieces and make sure the pieces are placed correctly whenever the invaders invade. It can be hard if you're trying to teach and run the game at the same time, but it's really rewarding. Once you get past that basic learning curve, the actions are really simple. Every turn with your spirit, you take one of 3 actions as denoted, or more or less, as denoted on your spirit's card, and it's learnable, but there's a pretty steep curve, I would say, at the beginning.
Yeah. So the reason I gave it a 4.5 instead of a 4 is because a lot of times when we're playing with people, I'm the one that has to teach the game, and I run the AI system for the game, right? I'm the one keeping track of all the different things that have to happen, and there's definitely a lot that goes on, right? This game has a whole bunch of pieces. There's a whole bunch of different mechanics. There's the fear mechanic that you can run that can upgrade your win conditions. There's all the different cards, right? Wade mentioned the board itself, so there's a whole bunch of different things that go into it. But I will say, even though it is fairly complex, there's a lot of things there, it doesn't ever feel unwieldy. Like, you don't ever feel like, oh man, I just have to keep track of all these things just for sake of bookkeeping. Instead, I feel like it really gives you a chance to really strategize, and there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do things, and I feel like the complexity is awesome. It definitely adds to the game, but it is fairly complex. There's a lot to learn.
Once you learn the flow of the game, it's pretty easy to understand.
Yep. Okay, so our next category is the strategy level in this game, meaning how much strategy you can have. In this game, we give it a full 5 out of 5. This is top tier strategy. There's a whole bunch of things that you can think about. From every time you're drawing cards to add to your hand, you get 4 choices. That's 4 different possible ways to play. The way the invaders act, where they invade, build, and ravage each round, you're able to see what's coming, so you can actually play towards the future. And one of the biggest things you have to kind of balance when you're making choices and things is, do I protect ourselves now, or do I plan for what's coming? Do I take the hit? Do I risk it? There's a whole bunch of different options. Added on top of that is the fact that you're working with another player. Your spirit has unique power hooked onto it. And there's so many different things that go into this game. There is a ton of strategic options.
For me, I think the spirit of this category is really what makes a game replayable for me. Because if you can solve the game, like, oh, this is the best strategy, and we're going to do this every time, then I don't really want to play it anymore. But this one, with all the different spirit options, all the different adversary options, you could have one spirit that's really good against England, but then that same spirit is crap against Scotland. This is what brings us back to the game over and over, is the level of strategy and how it can be different all the time.
Next, we're going to look at the art and the theme of the game. Now, Spirit Island, the theme is really cool. The idea that you are an ancient spirit protecting your homeland from invaders coming in, that part is awesome. The art level, however, is so-so, and so overall we give this a 4 out of 5. I might be leaning almost toward a 3, where the theme is really cool. The art, however, is just there. It's decent. You can see in our spirit boards that we have here, the spirits themselves are really cool, right? This spirit is shadow flickers like flame. It's super cool, but that's about it, right? You have your little spirit sheet that you use. Other than that, most things are pretty plain in the game. The cards have some pretty good artwork on them as you're playing, but again, it doesn't really make or break the game for me. It's mostly just a decent representation of the game.
Yeah, so the art, like you said, is kind of average, but the theme, like you said, is incredible. The names, River surges in sunlight, and the names of the powers are very thematic. It's a lot of fun, and then the invaders just feel like they're gonna take over your island.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guys, so our 6th review category is component quality. This is one of my favorites. I love tokens, and I love dice, and I love miniatures, and so we gave this score a 3 out of 5, and just average. Not everything is paper, not everything is cardboard, which is awesome. That's why we're kind of giving it the average score. We really like these little wooden Dahan tokens. The miniatures leave a little bit to be desired. They kind of look like Monopoly houses. The tokens could be a little more solid. I mean, they're not cardboard, which is why we're kind of giving it a 3 out of 5. We're giving it that average score because they do more than cardboard, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay, and our last category for this review is just the overall fun level, how enjoyable the game is to play. I give this one a 4. Wade gives it a 4.5 out of 5. Really, for me, this game, it's really fun. You're worried about being overrun, but it's just so fun. Your spirit really ramps up. By the end of the game, you start feeling really confident, and you feel like you can just crush everything. The theme really fits in really well. You just feel like you're protecting your island and doing all this work, and so it's really fun. And honestly, part of it for me that makes it fun is the fact that there's tons of strategy, and it's hard, right? You lose, and so you just are so motivated to keep going.
Yeah, the fun, I give it a 4.5 because losing doesn't make it feel like a like a loss, like you did something wrong. It's almost like Dark Souls where you know you could have done something differently, right? And it wasn't necessarily random chance. And it rides a really perfect balance of you feeling like you're becoming powerful enough to deal with these guys while the invaders ramp up as well. I mean, we've had games where we get to the final turn and it was like, that was not an easy game. It was neck and neck the whole time. So I really like that. I think that's why I gave it a 4.5, because it really balances that you getting overpowered versus the invaders still feeling like they're a threat.
All right, so our overall score of the game. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Spirit Island is honestly one of my most favorite games I've ever played. I love the strategy games. I love being able to replay something. I also love campaign games, just the idea of being able to progress through something and really level up. And so for me, just... oh, it's so fun. There's just so much intensity about the game while you're playing. You're just so focused, trying to beat everything. And even though, right, there is a lot of setup, there's a lot of complexity at first, but once you get into it, you just get going and man, you just want to try out every spirit combo and against every adversary, and there's just so much there. And so for me, this game is a full-on 9 out of 10.
I gave this, for my overall score, an 8 out of 10. This is still one of my favorite games. Sometimes it feels hard to come back to get back into it, but it's one of those games where when you start playing it again, you're like, okay, let's do it again. When you're away from it for a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to get my butt kicked by England again. But it is incredible. I've laughed so many times at the names of different powers. You start talking about, oh, my favorite spirit is this, and it really... there's so many spirits that suit so many different play styles. It's just incredible, and we've had such a great time with it.
So that's it for our review of Spirit Island today, guys. So make sure down below, leave a like, comment on our video if you have any other board games you would like us to review.
Let us know if you'd like us to do more about Spirit Island, or delve deeper into this. Tier lists, how to play videos. We're in for it all. Let us know what you guys are interested in. Thanks for watching.